Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast, where the podcast focusing on real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek Brissett. Derek, we've had our second round of URC action, the third round of Premiership. Have you been able to watch any of the games? Have you been able to get any of the action? Because I've got that MLR jonesing for a hit of that, man. I just need to have some rugby coming in, and I have to wake up on the early hours of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get a little bit.
I was able to catch a decent amount of it. At least for your MLRH, at least there's a lot of signings and trades and stuff happening right now.
Yeah.
It's nice. It feels like a real league. The off season being like super busy, and everybody, it's like one step away from being the NBA at this point. We just need like some superstar players to get traded, to demand trades publicly, and then get traded for like 12 guys. But yeah, no, it was good. As we had my Aussie Rules football team had an AFL Grand Final party on Friday night, in which I think we were at the bar until like 4 a.m. So Premiership Rugby Saturday morning was a nice recovery session, basically. And, thankfully, a lot of the games in the Premiership were a hell of a lot closer than that AFL Grand Final. That I think was, I think the Sydney Swans tried to throw in a towel after 10 minutes, but then we're told that they had to actually play the rest of the game because it's not like a combat sport where you can just stop if you want.
Yeah.
No mercy rule in the AFL apparently. But yeah, so it's like the Saracens, Owen Farrell kick on the last play of the game to win that. Sunday morning too. Did you watch the Quins Exeter game?
I got highlights of it, but
that game
looked amazing.
Wild. And as somebody that bet on the Harlequins because there was a really good line for them, and my complete unbiased opinion, that pass was totally forward. Like I said, though, complete unbiased opinion on that pass. But either way, man, that was a hell of a try. And a hell of a way to kind of end the game. I guess sad Premiership stuff, though. This rest in peace, Warriors.
Yes, unfortunately, the Worcester Warriors have now gone into administration. They were unable to reach their financial requirements by 5 p.m. British time today. So they have gone into administration. The club has locked the doors. Their insurance effectively expired at midnight. And at the moment, there is no game happening against Gloucester this weekend, and looks to be an automatic victory for the Cherry and Whites.
The Cherry and Whites, unless they're on the road, in which they wear blue.
That is true. Well, they're not anywhere because there's no game going on. So as a result, they're suspended from not only the men's Premiership, but also the women's Premier 15s as well. And yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation. However, this doesn't mean that it is completely the end of the Warriors. By being placed in administration, from what I've gathered, is the ideal position for new investors to come in. Hopefully it exposes the financial statements, deals could be made. And yeah, hopefully within a few weeks or a few months, we'll be able to see the Warriors run out again and compete in the Premiership. It may only be for a few games for this season, and they may have to be relegated to the Championship, but that is what's going on now. This may also be a similar fate to the Wasps as well, because there's similar circumstances about unpaid tax bills and financial guarantees, but that is yet to be seen. But all we can say conclusively at this moment in time is that the Warriors have gone into administration. We're wishing all the best for the players, the staff, and yeah, we're hoping that this issue can get resolved as soon as possible.
Yeah. In a happier European rugby news, Tyler Duguid absolutely killed it for Montpellier on the weekend.
Oh, yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, BC Rugby News posted quite the highlight reel, so that was cool. Saw that trending a little bit over the Canadian rugby social media. Percillier apparently scored a try too. So it's looking like some of the Canadian boys are killing it over in France. which is all obviously great to see. What happened with the Ospreys? I need my weekly Ospreys update from the only person I know that cheers for the Ospreys.
Well, unfortunately, they fell short in the game by 1 point. So, like, absolutely heartbreaking. However, they did secure the try bonus point and the losing bonus point in that. So, silver linings and all that. It may make the world of difference come the end of the year and when they're fighting for either playoff positions or even the Welsh Shield, which would guarantee their position in the following year's European Championship games. So we are yet to be seen, but also, it is very early to tell.
I was going to say, shout out to the All Blacks for winning the rugby championship despite being absolute garbage.
Yeah, because Australia were worse.
So. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, according to the New Zealand rugby media, they're the worst rugby team of all time. So,
absolutely.
Shout out to
If they haven't beaten a team 50-0, then everyone needs to get replaced, and it's a disgrace to
what it is in All Black land.
Yeah,
so, it's the best. It's the I want any sports team that I passionately cheer for to get to the point where like winning a championship, winning anything that you could be like, we won the championship. And you're like not good enough. Just not good enough this time. It's like
despicable,
disappointing. Yeah, you're either undefeated or you might as well finish last. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there was an international game that we would like to talk about. However, unfortunately, there's been very little options of getting a replay of it because it was played at 2 a.m. Eastern time. And that is Canada's final warm-up game against Fiji. So, as we said, played in Fiji time, makes perfect sense. But sadly, we've tried to follow the app because although we thought it would be on TSN, it unfortunately was not. It was on a private
it's not private. It wasn't like that. That's kind of the thing. It's like I know like that game I guess was 2 a.m. on Friday, so I guess Thursday night, or super late Thursday night. It's like it was available on that Fijian app, and I guess like I'm kind of torn on it because I'm like I suppose I could have stayed up and watched it. So I feel bad that I didn't like stay up and watch it live because I guess it was available live. I was really hoping there'd be like a replay of it, but unfortunately, like unfortunately it's just at a bad time. Like 2 a.m. start, I guess kind of feels like it's too late to stay up for. It's too early to wake up early for. It's weird, like in that weird gray area, and then I guess when you gotta work and stuff too, right? The next day.
Yeah. Stupid job asking me to do stupid things to pay me a stupid wage.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's like dumb society making people work for an
disgraceful
money, and then we have to use the money to pay for everything, and now everything's like super expensive and stuff thanks inflation. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, back to the game itself, because unfortunately there's been so little reported about this match. But Rugby Canada doesn't even have a post-match like analysis of the game on their website or an article taken about it. But all we know is the try scorers and the final score, and that is about it. So we won't delay you any longer. The final score was Fiji 7, Canada 24. So another victory for the women.
It was 0-0 at halftime, though.
Exactly. That was the rate. So this is just a 40-minute scoring percentage. So we do have some words. This is from the Fiji Rugby Union. So it may be a bit biased towards Fijiana. So Fijiana stood tall in the defense and held a heavy Canadian forward pack in the first half. Canada has a lot of opportunities, but failed to capitalize, and Fijiana managed to keep them at bay. A mistake by the Fijiana at the beginning of the second half saw Canada run through their opening try, scored by Sarah Kalajuvi. It took just minutes as Fijiana bounced back and loved it up after Seseniele Donu broke the opponent's defense and delivered it to Akanisi Suko-Iwasa, who dived in for a try. Canada then mounted the pressure and scored 3 more tries to seal the match. Now, it doesn't say in this article who the try scorers were, but we do have the names down here. It was Grant, Boag, and Bokaboom. And special mention to Bokaboom as well, because this was her 50th cap for Rugby Canada. So massive congratulations to her. And yeah, congratulations to Tyson for getting that. The 5th woman in Canadian history to reach 50 caps. So absolutely fantastic. And yeah, hope to see you add to that cap tally in the World Cup, which is coming up in just a few weeks now, I believe. Yeah. 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's close. It's close.
Time is a flat circle, ever encroaching on the soul.
October 8th, I think, right? It's the first game? October 8th.
Yeah, so it's October 9th in New Zealand, but it's October 8th in Canada. So it will be at 10:15 p.m. on October 8th for Canada's first match of the Women's Rugby World Cup in Japan against Japan. And now I can confirm that that match will be on TSN, as will all the pool games for Canada as well. So apologies for getting it wrong about the Fiji game, but it is confirmed. I've checked on the Rugby World Cup website. It even says broadcast on TSN. So we're all good. We're all going to be fine.
And the other big piece of news too is that Chloe Daniels is replacing Marie Thibault in the squad for the World Cup. So Daniels just 19 years old. She plays for Queens, and going to get her first, I guess, possibly getting her first test cap at the World Cup. So
well,
a bit of a ride.
Yeah, welcome to the deep end. So
exactly.
It should be fun.
Trial by fire. It's the way you should. It's the way everything should be done. Just throw. You want to learn how to swim? Jump in. No life jacket. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so it's now less than 2 weeks until the Women's World Cup kicks off, and we'll be cheering on Canada and all the women as they compete in the World Cup 2021, taking place in 2022. Now, we'll move it a bit closer to home with the Arrows, and they've been making more moves in their development of their squad for 2023. And this is a big one. The Arrows have signed from the Bristol Bears, Mitch Eady, who's a loose forward. He was released by the Bears at the end of last season. He's been playing local rugby in the meanwhile, and it has been confirmed that he will be playing for the Arrows in 2023. A incredible player, has played over 150 games for the Bears over 2 stints. He's also played for Northampton Saints as well. And he was capped for Scotland under 20s as well back in the day. So, definitely a player with a lot of experience. And he'll be making the move over with his family as well. And, he's lots of positives that have come from Mitch about talking with the team, and I say team like the backroom team. So like Mark Winokur, Bill Webb, the club's ambitions, his own goals, and how they sync up with the Arrows as well. And excited for them to make the move over to Toronto. The guy is 6'3", 240 pounds. He's been named Players Player of the Season twice for Bristol. So obviously well liked amongst his colleagues as well. Mm-hmm. So and hoping that we can get some Bristol supporters to pay attention to some Arrows games in 2023 as well, when Mitch laces up the boots for the blue and white of Toronto.
They were probably paying attention when they had those Manuel Diana rumors too, although that did not pan out, I guess. So Bristol, we are well.
Yeah, can you find it? What do you find more ridiculous is that Manuel Diana didn't go to Bristol, or the fact that a Bristol player came to Toronto before a Toronto player went to Bristol?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know if either one would be necessarily overly ridiculous. Like, there's been a handful of MLR guys that have jumped over to like, I guess to Europe and playing in some bigger leagues. So an MLR player going over there isn't necessarily unheard of. And then yeah, like Mitch Eady, it's like he's not on a like a premiership roster right now, right? So it's like essentially a free agent, right? So free agents are
Yeah.
going to look for other leagues. So it's not the it's I think it's good in the sense that it shows that it's it is the MLR is, I guess, becoming like a desirable landing spot for guys that are in Europe or maybe
Yeah.
just missed the cut for a team this season. Um right. So I think that all kind of works out. So I don't really think I would find either one like necessarily overly ridiculous. I think it's great that Edie is joining the squad. Obviously, the Arrows past couple of weeks, the back row's looking nice.
Yeah.
Some signings here. So, I mean, as it stands right now, what the back row, 3 back row players have signed: O'Neill, Larson, and now Edie. So that ain't bad. Obviously, depending on who else is coming back, but we said like the Arrows last year, the Arrows back row was probably the deepest part of the team, and then now they're adding Edie and Larson to it, so that's pretty good. I think, in all honesty, like looking at his bio and stuff, right? It's so he played for Bristol. He played for Bristol while they were in the championship, helped them get promotion to the Premiership. And then had a couple other stints on other Premiership teams as well. But like you said, he's played like, I guess, 150 games of pro rugby split between the championship and the Premiership. And I think honestly, like the thing that is the most appealing to me about him coming here, as you said, like from that article that the Arrows pointing out that he's won like the Bears like Players Player Award. What would you say, twice?
Yes.
Yeah,
Players Player of the Season.
Yeah, Players Player of the Season twice. Which I think is the part that excites me the most, like even more so than his skill level or the type of game that he can brings, is it's like just have some more guys in the locker room and stuff. As we know, like there's some like key players that are gone.
Yeah.
Right, like notably like like Gaston Murez, for example, right? A guy that's been one of the highest capped players for Uruguay. He's been he's played at the highest level. He's played in World Cups and stuff, right? Knows everything there is to know about being a professional rugby player. And and I think that's something that like Edie can bring if he's winning like Players Player awards. Coming over like that, I think that's a guy that can, to me, sounds like that's a guy that can contribute to the culture of the locker room, knows what it takes to be a professional player. Has been obviously like in the championship. To gain promotion, you got to win, right? So been part of a championship team at a professional level as well. Can kind of teach like a lot of the younger guys like what it means to be a professional rugby player, because like the reality of, especially for the North American guys in this league as a whole, right, is that like most of them are like realistically still pretty new to being a pro rugby player, right? At most 5-6 years at most for guys that have been in the league since year one, right? So I think it's always good, even though like he's only 30, which isn't old by any stretch of the imagination or whatever, but he's been a pro rugby player for like quite some time, right? So it's it's always good to, I think it's always good to kind of bring in those guys that can kind of help everyone along in the locker room.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a reason that like you go out of your way to highlight stuff like the Players Player of the Year or whatever, because it's, I mean, it does mean something. Even if you're not the best player on the team, it's like, you have to have those guys that are good in the locker room and stuff, have those glue guys that can, guys that can take care of like, do the team bonding stuff, or take care of like, any disagreements or anything that happens within the locker room. It's like, you have to have those guys that are able to like, show what it means to just be like the best teammate you can be and what it means to be a pro and stuff. And I think like even beyond his skill level, which is obviously great, it's like I think that's something that he can bring to I think that's immediately something that he can bring to the team. So to be honest, I was more excited reading that he was a player's player of the year twice than any of his actual on-field accomplishments or his skill level. It's also cool that he's talking about his family coming over to Toronto and stuff, because that's always like I think like the biggest and best thing that you can kind of see from a lot of these guys that have played overseas, played in the biggest leagues in the world, is like the full buy-in and stuff, completely moving their families and stuff over. And hope arriving in Toronto, well, whenever he's actually going to arrive in Toronto, whatever the Arrows timeline is for that. But I think that's it always works out well, and I'm looking forward to having him on the squad.
Yeah, and I think having your family here as well is obviously like a big thing. And, as a foreigner who's come over to Toronto myself, that there's a big like expat community as well. So there's going to be a big British community. I know it was also, I think it was Micah Torrance Reed who was mentioning about his family as well. Coming over from Australia. I know there's an Australian community in Toronto as well.
I wonder if I can get them to play Aussie rules football in the off season.
Do some recruiting. I'm not entirely sure about that.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't be allowed to play other sports. Yeah,
especially contact sport or potentially high risk sports. I think it's fair. That's fair. You can watch it, but you can't.
My plan was to not tell the Arrows about it.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have mentioned this on a podcast.
I don't know. Maybe does he have a brother? Does he bring in a brother or something over? What about his dad, his son? How old's his kids? I don't know.
I don't know. You have to ask him.
Yes, yeah. Maybe he's got friends. Tell him to bring his friends.
Yeah, when his friends come over to see his first match in first home game for the Arrows, then they can.
There we go. Always, we need to always be recruiting. So.
We're on the ball with this. Come on, we never stop. All right, now, so we're going from talking about a player with a lot of senior experience to a new tournament, which will possibly be focusing on younger talent as well, because according to Americas Rugby News, there is the Americas Rugby Trophy tournament that will be happening this October. And this is a uncapped tournament between Canada, Chile, and Brazil. And Brazil are set to host all the games. So all these teams will be like 15. So Canada 15, Brazil 15, Chile 15. And so it's 3 games over the space of 10 days. So the first game will be on October 16th, which is a Sunday. And that is Brazil versus Chile. The second game, which will be on the 21st, which is a Friday, will be Chile versus Canada. The final game, which will be on October the 26th, which is a Wednesday, will be Brazil versus Canada. And according to Americas Rugby News, Brazil and Chile wanted these to be capped matches, but Canada did not, which is interesting. But then at the same time, I believe it is only a few days later in that October, October the 29th, is when Canada are set to host the All Blacks 15. So, yeah, I can understand where they're coming from. Of if it's a fully capped game, they would need to have their coach, their personnel down in Brazil, and then they have to immediately fly back to Canada, where this game is going to take place. Most likely at BC Place in Vancouver, in the space of 3 days. So now, again, it's not confirmed.
We have no idea. We don't know where it is.
Considering the CFL schedule, it appears that BC Place and Tim Hortons Field are really the most likely venues for this game to be held. And BC Place has double the capacity of Tim Hortons Field. And also, it's the All Blacks. So,
to be clear, we have no idea where this game is going to be played.
Absolutely no idea. They said it's a home game.
before we recorded, we took a look at the CFL schedule because we're curious because of this news, and it's just the Argos have a home game against Montreal on the 29th. The Red Blacks have a home game against Hamilton on the 29th, and then even a little bit to expand more, Calgary is hosting Saskatchewan on the 29th. Winnipeg is hosting BC on the Friday, the 28th. So basically, from that, if you were to play it in a bigger stadium, you're looking at Vancouver, Hamilton, maybe Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Montreal, I guess, if you're looking for like a big full-size stadium. And I mean, realistically, the Vancouver and Hamilton and Edmonton have all hosted games, so I suppose it could be there. We're just trying to do like a silly like process of elimination thing for the CFL schedule. But you never know where that actually, obviously, like there's other options too, but yeah, so we don't know where that game is. But it obviously kind of conflicts with this tournament a little bit. Also, I think, like, side note, like, are we at all concerned that we're about a month away from that game and we still don't know where it is?
Well, we're not the ones organizing it, so I'm not too concerned.
Yeah. Either way, though, I think it is interesting that Canada didn't want it to be capped. As you kind of mentioned, though, first of all, Brazil and Chile both wanted it to be capped. As you mentioned, though, there's obviously an All Black 15 game. So from Canada's point of view, I think you're right. You probably want your star players, right, to be playing against the All Blacks, which then kind of means you're probably sending a bit of a weaker team down to Chile. My whole thing, though, is I think it's interesting because I think that could have been, and maybe this is just me like overthinking things a lot, but I think one of the things that we have constantly talked about on this podcast, through the duration of us doing the podcast, one of the biggest topics that we've discussed when, for free agency and Major League Rugby and everything is a visa issue, which we have learned gets incredibly helped if you have a cap. Yes. So I was like, you got two games here. If the big boys are playing the All Blacks, the All Black 15, could that not have been an opportunity to say, okay, fine, we'll cap these two games. And then even if you lose, I know you don't want to slide in the world rankings, and just throw out, say, over two games, you bring a different roster size, 30 guys maybe, and just be like, let's just cap, and make it easy. Make it easier for like a whole bunch of guys to potentially get, make it easier on guys to get MLR jobs, because you can have them be like, you can point to a bunch of guys and be like, they got a cap. I don't know. I might be overthinking that, but is that an opportunity that you could just been like, let's cap a bunch?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, because that makes sense. Obviously, as in, I know there's this, I think it's like a player who's playing for both, or has been training with both Canada and the USA over this summer. And because he's only part of training squads, he's not been like capped by either nation. But if he was to play for one of these games, he could be secured, I think, because I remember when we were interviewing Michael Smith, he was talking about his visa processing. He also included like under 20s games, uncapped, which, are all uncapped, but they may be retention games. So as in, you're not capped by your official nation, but because you are played for essentially their second team, you are caught and held. It might
all help, but I was just like, if the cap is the thing that, like, especially for like just visa purposes and stuff, if the cap's the thing the US government is going to look for, right, then like, I don't know.
Well, then again, it may also be a case of that if you've if you can get like proof that, oh, you have represented your nation on the international stage.
Yeah, that might help.
And it's not a cap, so to speak, but the wording of what they're looking for is so vague that it, still helps the process.
Yeah.
Then I'm fine with that. But yeah, this would be a good opportunity, especially, I'm always a proponent of getting younger players out there. And, maybe these are the guys who are like, on the edge of making selection. Maybe they're like the third or fourth pick for a position.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know who the coach would be to look after them if Kingsley Jones and say Rob Howley,
Phil Mack.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Actually, well, would they? Because the Pacific Pride's going on roughly the same time, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but you can be there for a week.
Well, it's 10 days, but that could still mean that you're missing 2 games from.
But okay, but the Pride is also like the Canadian development team. So how many Pride guys are going to be playing in this game, anyways?
That is fair. That is fair.
How many Pride guys should be playing in this game? That'd be because that's the thing that'd be interesting. Like, the thing I actually like. I mean, I think I'm probably overthinking the whole cap thing. That's fine. But I think like one of the things that this tournament would probably be good for is like the fact that you're going to have guys that are going to go play this all black 15 game.
Yeah.
And then you like, how often does Canada get like this sort of like, how often have we had this like A team, B team kind of setup where we can be like, there could be like, you know what I mean? We could have like 60 guys like in a, like, kind of a Canada camp preparing for international games. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Like that could be a good thing. Right. And, get some guys some playing time with, playing against Brazil or against Chile. Like, I think that'll be good. And, I mean, like even talking about the caps and stuff, it's like, hey, I mean, if you're like a younger player that is uncapped and you're going to go play Chile or Brazil or whatever, it's a good opportunity to kind of show what you got. Because I'm assuming if Brazil and Chile wanted this to be a capped game, they're probably fully intending on sending pretty good teams to this.
We should as well.
Yeah, so it like, I mean, I don't know, I'm excited for it. It's good to see guys getting more opportunities to play, especially, and guys getting more opportunities to play, especially when the national team might be playing other games too, right? A little bit of a better chance, more of a chance to like represent Canada and play at a high level. It's always nice.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. And well, we did say that the first game is going to be on October 16. The first game for Canada will be on October 21st. So we are less than a month away from that tournament. It's all kicking off in October.
I was going to say October's going to be busy.
October's going to be fun. That's what it's going to be. All right. So last week we mentioned that we were going to be talking about laws of the game of rugby. And we started off with talking about number 1, the pitch. And so for this week's insight into the laws of the game, we're looking at number 2, which is the ball. The key factor that makes our sport different from, so many others. So the ball is oval and it's made of 4 panels. The ball is between 280 and 300 millimeters in length, 740 to 770 millimeters in point-to-point circumference, and 580 to 620 millimeters in width circumference. It weighs 410 to 460 grams, and the ball is made of leather or suitable synthetic material, and it may be treated to make it water resistant and easier to grip. The air pressure at the start of play is set at 65.71 to 68.75 kilopascals, which is 0.67 to 0.7 kilos per square centimeter, or 9.5 to 10 pounds per square inch. And of course, spare balls may be available during a match, which I think is really important, because when you see a player kick it right up into the nosebleed seat, you're not waiting 5 minutes for someone to pass it all the way back down to pitch side. So you're just able to get the ball going and get it moving along as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure though we've all played club level games in which the number of balls available is scarce.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
significantly less than
Yeah,
test game.
exactly. And the you ever get the ones like the ref has to call time off while somebody I know like not rugby, but where we play Aussie rules football, it's at Humber College, and there's a river behind the goals.
Yeah,
And sometimes, and there's only so many game balls you can use. So when guys score goals, the ball ends up in the river sometimes, and there's like a little delay while we have to go get the ball.
yeah. No,
So,
it's
I mean, it's having
it should be the classic rule of if you kicked it out, you have to get it back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so that is that. Okay, so that's kind of, so we did kind of the lines, the pitch yesterday. The ball, obviously kind of fun. And as you kind of mentioned, there is some like varying differences in what the balls can kind of look like and stuff, which you can kind of see even at like test level. Cause I mean, you got like the Gilberts are used quite a bit around the world. You got New Zealand has that Adidas contract, so you get Super Rugby and stuff using the Adidas balls. Everything's a little bit different. You know, we got, what do we got in the MLR? We got Rhino in the MLR with those balls and stuff. So what's your favorite ball? What's like, because they're all slightly different.
Well, they are all
like
slightly different.
When you were playing, like, what do you go with?
I am partial to a Gilbert, but I think that may just be a case of when we were growing up.
Classic, right?
And it would be like the ball at a lot of like English schools and stuff like that. So, and then because my dad was a teacher as well, he would have access to some rugby balls, and so whenever we would, just do like skill training or things like that, it would always be a Gilbert ball that we would use. So, yeah, you just get comfortable with what you're used to, and that's what you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like I know, like it's interesting. It's like, I guess it's that it's almost, you know what I mean. Like, to me, it's like my default assumption is Gilbert. All like unless I actually see like the other ball. It's almost like how, like, like when you say the brand name for just a product like Kleenex.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Like that's almost how like a Gilbert ball feels. It's like that's just the default that I assume everybody uses unless it's different on that one day. Then I'm like, oh yeah, right. There's like, I guess there's a lot of like other balls that are technically out there and stuff. But yeah, I think like Gilbert's the classic one, right? It's the one that Gilbert actually makes the balls like in rugby, right? Or like they have like an office in rugby or something. Like they're like the OG like ball, like they're like at like they actually played with it at the rugby school, I believe, right? So it's kind of, I believe. You're fact checking me on this.
I'm just finding out just to make absolutely sure.
I better be right. I'm always right. I'm never wrong on this podcast. That's totally not true. I'm wrong about like 12 things a podcast, but yeah, like I'm pretty, so I think like because of that too. Also, it's like it's got like they figured out like the design, like how to make the ball like look nice too, like the way they do the stripes and everything. And then, I mean, I guess unless games are in New Zealand, right? It seems to be the default. Or
well, I understand where you come. I mean, Gilbert have provided rugby balls for every World Cup since 1995.
So I mean, it's the classic ball. It's the classic ball.
Yeah, it's named after William Gilbert.
And everything in rugby is this guy's named William, eh?
Yeah, who, along with his nephew James, developed rugby balls for the neighboring rugby school.
I got it. I
definitely. There you go. That's where it comes from.
I know. They made like shoes or something, right? Before the ball.
So this is what the products that they make for rugby union balls, obviously.
No, but I meant like before they made rugby balls. They did something before they made rugby balls.
They've done a lot of things. So this is the products they make: balls, kits, protective gear. That's body armor, shoulder pads, head guards, scrum caps, mouth guards, and gloves when they were used. They have made boots, compression garments. They've made bags, safety cones, tees, water bottles, and tackle bags. So if it's any equipment you use in rugby, it's likely that you've used Gilbert previously.
Yeah. Okay, so like what I was trying to figure out though is like, before they started making balls, William Gilbert was a cobbler.
Yeah,
according to Wikipedia. So I made shoes.
Yeah.
Right, which I guess translates to rugby is they do make boots, right? So I guess that the original family traditions still continue. I think yeah, pretty much almost every union in the league, or almost every union in the world kind of, I think, I don't know, it's just kind of the default ball, I guess. Which I guess technically, if you're looking at the World Rugby laws, I guess if it isn't international, I guess that is technically a rule, right? It's got to be a Gilbert ball for test matches, unless they're played in New Zealand, right? Because they can use the rugby. There's all the rugby.
Well, that's if you've seen a World Cup match since 1995, it's been a Gilbert ball. Yeah. So
does the entire rugby championship use Adidas, or is it just?
I don't know,
because I think it's like All Black games have an Adidas ball for a lot of them, don't they? So remember that was a thing at one point in time because you can kick them differently, and that was like a big deal with like.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about that. Yeah. Anyway, if you're looking to catch the next Gilbert ball passing by, then you can watch it on Sportsnet, because the Premiership and the URC will be continuing on there. And we've mentioned all these games that are happening in October, but nothing's happening this weekend besides that, unfortunately. We just have to wait a little bit longer for the Americas Rugby Trophy and, of course, the Rugby World Cup. Well, we're going to end the podcast there. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more of them, you can do so on Spotify, Anchor FM, or Apple Podcasts. If you enjoyed watching this podcast and would like to watch more podcasts, including clips from the games of last season where we interview players, then you can do so on our YouTube channel at Rouge Rugby. And if you'd like to message us across social media, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Rouge Rugby. Derek, where can the people find you?
At Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms.
And you can find me across social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, Derek, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast as we focus on real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.